بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعه هداه أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to the second session of Maxims of Fiqh. Today, inshallah, we will talk about the fourth introduction, and we will mention in this introduction the types and the categories of Maxims of Fiqh. Now, the Maxims of Fiqh, they are not of one type, nor they fall under the same category. So from one side, from one category, the generality of the maxims, there are three levels of maxims. The first level is what we call the grand maxims. The grand maxims. Those are the maxims under which almost all chapters of fiqh fall. These grand maxims are 6 in number, and they are composed in poem. It says ضرر يزال وعادة قد حكمت كذا المشقة تجلب التيسير الشك لا ترفع به متيقنا والقصد أخلص إن أردت أجورا والقول فاعمل ولا تهملا إن الإهمال من الكلام يسيرا. These are 6 maxims. الضرر يزال, the harm is to be removed. العادة محكمة, the custom is to be applied. And difficulty brings ease, and the judgment of the actions based on their intention, and applying the speech is better than ignoring it, and doubt does not qualify to remove certainty. These are the grand maxims of fiqh that almost all other chapters of fiqh fall underneath, and these maxims, all scholars, they agreed on them. They agreed on those 6 maxims. Now, on the second level, we have maxims that are smaller, that they generally fall under one of those 6 maxims. But still, many of the scholars agreed on their content as well. And sometimes they are separate. They are not falling under all of the grand maxims, but they are smaller than the grand maxims because they don't apply many rulings like the grand maxims do. For instance, الضرورات تبيح المحظورات. Necessities permit prohibitions. This is a maxim that falls under one of the maxims, which is the difficulty brings ease. That's a general maxim, and if you look at it, you will find many applications. Then we have another maxim, which is general. It is not grand maxim, but it doesn't fall under any of the grand maxims. And they say, as an example for this, التصرف على الرعية منوط بالمصلحة. The Imam, the leader of the Muslims, when he acts on behalf of his subject, he should act for what is useful for them. Now, this maxim by itself, it does not fall under any of the grand maxims, yet it has many applications. And that's why we say these are general. They are not grand maxims, but they are general. Then we have in the third level, maxims that are smaller. They don't have generality. They apply to a specific section or a chapter. And sometimes they don't even belong to a one chapter. They are even tighter than that. And most of those maxims, they belong to one school of thought. You will find in every school of thought similarity of these maxims. One of these examples, كل عقوبة سببها معصية فهي على الفور. Every penance due to sin is to be implied immediately. كل عقوبة سببها إثم فهي على الفور. For instance, if there is a penalty, you committed a crime, or you violated one of the obligations, and you have to expiate. Is it delayed? Do you wait 1 year? No, it has to be done immediately. For instance, that's a specific maxim for a specific chapter in the chapter of penalties, in the chapter of expiation. Now, we talked about one categorization, which is the generality of the maxims. Next, we have another categorization based on the agreement and disagreement of scholars. Now, sometimes you find the maxim coming in the form of question. We have two ways. Either we mention the maxim as a report, you are telling the maxim, or you are mentioning the maxim as a question. Why is that difference? We have two ways. Because if the maxim is mentioned as a report, then it's an indication that it is agreed upon. If the maxim is mentioned in the form of question, then that means there is disagreement. That's another categorization of the maxims. And based on that also, we have maxims that agreed upon by all scholars, and maxims that are in one of schools of thought, and maxims that are disagreed upon and scholars have different opinions. The next introduction now is the origins for the maxims of fiqh. What is the source? Where do we get and deduce the maxims from? We have two types. We have two types of evidences for the maxims. The first type of maxims that are based directly on the text, either the Book of Allah or the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For instance, when Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. This is ayah in the Quran. This is a specific ayah in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. Let's come to derive a maxim from this ayah. We say, كُلُّ بَيْعٍ فَهُوَ حَلَال. Every transaction is halal. Because Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ. Every sale is halal, with the exception. Now we need to qualify. We say, with the exception of what is prohibited. On the other hand, we say, every sale includes riba is haram. That's a maxim. Now, what is the evidence for that maxim? It is the Book of Allah, directly. It is from the Book of Allah. Another example. Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ. And eat not the properties of one another in falsehood, without justified cause. Eat not the properties of one other unjustly. We derive a maxim from this and we say, every transaction involves taking the right of the other unjustly is prohibited. That's a maxim. What is the evidence for that? It is the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the first category. The second category, maxims that are not based on the text. They are not based on the evidence directly either from the Book of Allah or from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Here also we have two types. Either there is ijma', like the maxim, لا اجتهاد في موضع النص. There is no exerting the effort in the presence of the text. That's a maxim. And it is agreed upon by all scholars in unanimous consensus. Then we don't have ijma', but it's based on analogy. It is based on analogy, or it is deduced from the understanding of the text. It is deduced from the understanding of the text. So now we have the maxims, either there is evidence or there is no evidence. If there is evidence, then that's the first type. The second type, when there is no evidence. If there is no evidence, either there is ijma', and again there is unanimous consensus, just like there is an evidence, or there is no ijma', but rather what do we have? We have the understanding of the text, or we have the analogical reasoning. We have the qiyas. So these are the sources of maxims, and these are the origins of maxims. Now, the next introduction that we have is the ruling on the maxims of fiqh. Can we make the maxim of fiqh evidence? The maxim of fiqh itself is a result of a ruling, is a result of an evidence. Can we use the maxim itself as an evidence? Because it is the result of something. Can we make the result of something the thing itself? And the answer depends on the type of the maxim. As you saw, if the maxim is directly a statement from the Quran, then definitely it is an evidence. It is an evidence, even if we say it is a maxim, because it's part of an ayah, and the ayah was an evidence. That's one example. Another example, if the maxim is based on the ijma', then also it is an evidence. there is no argument, because ijma' is one of the strongest evidences of sharia. All scholars agreed upon it. Now, the question is only when the maxim is based on the analogical reasoning, is based on qiyas. Is it evidence or no? And the vast majority of scholars said yes, it is an evidence as long as it stands out. It is valid. It's a valid analogy, just like the analogy. Is the analogy evidence? Yes, it is an evidence. So the same thing. So in general, maxims of fiqh, they are evidences. They are evidences. Although some scholars, they argued and said maxims of fiqh, they are the fruit of the evidence. And we cannot make the fruit itself as an evidence. So these are another 3 introductions, and we will stop here. Inshallah, we'll continue next session. هذا وصلى الله وسلم على محمد وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.